Hi, Kat.
Hi, John.
How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. How are you doing?
I am doing quite well myself, thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, look at us both doing well and good. Good and well.
That's great, right? We're very fortunate.
We are. We really are. Like now I feel guilty. You just said that, and now I'm like, oh, I shouldn't put it out there too much that I'm not miserable as I should be.
Yeah, John, what are you doing?
I know.
Come on.
Yep. It's bad.
Cut it out.
Yes, ma'am. What the hell are we doing, Kat?
John, we, as in you and I,
Together
apart,
mm-hmm.
we are recording a podcast.
Is that what it is?
That's what this is.
Everything
is
makes sense now.
I should have mentioned this over a year ago. We're doing a podcast together.
A podcast, you say?
I do say. It's called My Mistake.
Okay, a podcast called My Mistake that you and I are doing together.
Yeah, well, how's that sound?
That sounds pretty good to me.
All right, good.
I'd pay a nickel for that. So what do we do on this podcast called My Mistake that you and I do together?
Well, John, we talk about mistakes. Sometimes our mistakes.
Frequently.
Sometimes other people's mistakes.
Somewhat less frequently, but still pretty frequently.
And sometimes we go way back. We go in the way back machine.
Woo.
And we talk about historical mistakes, which we have then named.
Right.
Trademarked, actually.
Yes.
Copyright.
Top TM.
Hysterical mistorks.
We have. I love that I made a pronunciation error a year ago, and I'm still standing by it. I'm going to pretend it was intentional.
It stuck.
Mm-hmm. It did.
And John, we are going to do a hysterical mistork tonight.
I'm all about it.
I'm
ready to get all hysterical up in that mistork.
So normally,
yes,
part of the fun for the person who's going to be telling the tale,
yes,
we don't spill the beans yet. We kind of let the other person figure it out as we go.
Indeed.
I'm not going to do that tonight.
Oh, but Kat, I like to try to guess. You're going to spoilers right out the gate.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to let you guess at the front end here.
Okay.
When I say to celebrate the month that we are in, and in recognition of the times we are living in, John.
Oh boy, I'm guessing it's Stonewall.
Hey!
Yay! It's Pride Month, everybody.
That's right. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
And in honor of that, we're going to talk about the Stonewall riot of 1969.
Fuck yeah, we are. Because they really, really, really were important, and they're very, very relevant to now. But I bet you're going to be able to tell me all kinds of things I don't know about. You know what? Here's the thing. I hope so. You are such a learned man. Oh, sure.
I never know when I do these. I'm always like, John's going to know more about this than I do. So I researched the fuck out of this.
Nice. Nice.
Because I wanted to do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
This is an important topic to me, and I wanted to do a good job. And there's a lot, I'm sure if you put in Stonewall into the podcast searching thingy bobby, a lot of people have talked about it, right? So,
sure.
But I still wanted to kind of put our own little spin on it. So, God damn it, John, we're doing it.
Nobody's going to do it like you would do it, Kat. That's the beauty of it. You're going to put your own stank all over it.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
I think it's good.
So before we get into the night that it all happened, I wanted to talk a little bit about the history kind of leading up to that moment, that night.
I think that's important.
And listen, there's so much I could get into. This could be like a series, right? So in the interest of not making this a 3-hour long thing, there's going to be stuff I'm leaving out, and I invite our listeners, if you're interested, look into it. There's a lot of really good resources out there. It's a fascinating topic, and there's
we can get some discussion going on our Facebook page. My Mistake, the podcast on Facebook.
I would love that. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to get into the history of homosexuality not going there, not going that far back. But we're going to pick things up in 1897, John.
Okay, that's I feel like that's a good place to start.
Thank you.
Yeah. They had gay people then?
They did.
I did not know you people had been invented yet.
Oh, we were around.
Okay.
So in 1897, Magnus Hirschfeld created the Scientific Humanitarian Committee, which is recognized as the very first LGBT rights organization in history.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Great. Thanks, Magnus.
Indeed.
We're going to jump to 1924 when the Society of Human Rights was founded by Henry Gerber, and that's considered the first gay organization in the United States.
Go Gerber.
That's what his
Gerber
friends
baby.
called him.
Uh-huh.
Gerber baby.
Uh-huh.
And then in 1950, the Mattachine Society is created in Los Angeles, and it is considered a secret homophile organization.
Homophile. I love it. You don't often hear the opposite of homophobe.
You don't. And the idea was they wanted to distance themselves from homosexual because that was such sort of had a deviant reputation, right? That word was a bad word.
Yeah. No, we're about love. Philo.
That's it, exactly. And their sort of mission statement, if you will, was they would win over public opinion by being dignified and reserved and respectable. So sort of like very quiet activism.
Yeah, because that works.
Oh, always, right? Yeah, that's a long history of that working.
Very much. Very much.
No, not true. In April of 1952, the American Psychiatric Association designates homosexuality as a sociopathic personality disturbance.
Yep. Is it 37 words? I can't remember. There's a way that's referred. Yeah, because in the compendium of
manual, the diagnostic manual.
Yes. Yeah. What is it? The GSM or what's it called? The DSM, I think. It was the number of words that were used to define it as a mental disorder or disturbance.
So that's cool. It's not great.
No.
And then a year later, President Eisenhower issued Executive Order number 10450, which, as you'll know, John, banned gays and lesbians from working for any agency in the federal government. Cool. Just in case you didn't, if there's any question, can't work for us. Cool.
Right. Bad.
In 1955,
yes,
an organization called Daughters of Billidus. Let's go with Billidus.
Okay.
Doesn't have a ring to it. First of all, I have a problem with that.
It's clunky. There clearly there probably no gay people in this organization.
Oh no, there are.
Oh, there are.
My people. This was the first. Was recognized as the first lesbian civil and political rights organization in the U.S.
I see. Okay.
Was formed in San Francisco. You think I would know how to pronounce it?
No, I wouldn't.
It was originally conceived by a lesbian couple as a social alternative to lesbian bars, which were subject to raids and police harassment.
Sure. Yeah. Go figure.
That's so weird. In 1966, so we're kind of building, right? We're building. In 1966, 3 members of the Mattachine Society, which I mentioned before.
You did.
They staged what was later dubbed to be called a sip-in, not a sit-in, but a sip-in. At a bar in the West Village in New York.
Okay.
It was modeled after the sit-ins that Black civil rights movement used as a tool.
Right.
So this organization's like, hey, we're going to do the same thing.
And they did them on college campuses across the country?
They did them in okay, so they did them in bars.
Right.
So, they basically were saying, it's not illegal to serve us. I'm here in a just a regular bar. It's not a gay bar. They would walk in and say, I'm a homosexual. I would like a drink. And they basically went around doing that until someone said, no, we're not going to serve you. And they're like, oh, we're going to sue you. And it worked.
Okay.
So
this is activism at its finest.
Exactly. And it's funny, the first time they did this, they had to go to 3 or 4 bars before it worked.
That's both good news and annoying.
Bad news. Yeah. Exactly.
Where are the bigots?
God damn it. Show me the bigots.
Where are the bigots? We got to find them fast.
So then in 1967, the New Jersey State Supreme Court ruled that well-behaved homosexuals could not be denied service.
Very progressive of New Jersey. Come on.
Right?
Yeah.
I know. Thanks, Jersey. In our culture, homosexuals are indeed unfortunates. Their status does not make them criminals or outlaws.
I mean,
thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, they were gay people were unfortunate back then because they were subjected to like all kinds of crazy discrimination, physical violence. I mean, yeah, I mean, so they weren't wrong, but where the thing that the problem is that they were looking at it as they're unfortunate because they're gay. It's like, no, they're unfortunate because of the way we treat them. That's
exactly.
Yeah. But they made a move. They made a step in the right direction.
It was something. Something.
Hey,
we'll take it.
It was on paper, right?
That's right. It was official.
Yeah.
In 1969, every state in the U.S., except for Illinois, strangely, carried sodomy laws, which was basically made non-vaginal sex illegal.
Right.
Mostly it was aimed towards men and anal sex, but technically oral sex.
Right. Even between heterosexual couples, it could be enforced. I 100%. I doubt it very well.
I doubt
frequently
it
was. Yeah.
But it was a sort of a very broad law that allowed homosexuals to be, persecuted.
Right. Growing up in Indiana, sodomy laws still existed. I don't know if they're gone now.
That's a good question. That's something I should look into. That's good. I mean, just good to know. I'm sure it was probably not that long ago that they were abolished, maybe. I mean,
if they were. I mean, Mike Pence was just the governor, so FMP. But we're not ending this now. No, that's an early FMP.
That's fine. That's hey, listen. There's always
there's not enough F's in the world for MP. So,
that's what I'm saying.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So to reiterate.
Yep.
In 1969.
Yes.
You could be fired for being gay.
Right.
You could potentially be arrested or imprisoned for having sex with someone of the same sex.
Right.
You could be arrested for wearing clothing of the opposite sex.
Mm-hmm.
Men and women could be arrested for, as they called it, cross-dressing.
Right. Or transvestitism, which at some point I have to find out whether transvestites actually exist any longer.
That's a good question too.
Right. I mean, this comes from a real place. I don't know. I don't know if that whole category no longer exists.
That's a good question. I think, that is a very good question. I can speculate, but I don't want to do that.
Right. Let's find out later, and we can talk about it on the next one. Or somebody write us and tell us.
Please. And any depictions of gays in media were always negative. There was no positive representation of gays. It was always talking about how horrible they were. If you were in a gay bar and it was rated, they could take your name and put it in the paper the next day. And that was done commonly. So basically and it was always like very devious and like perverted. And there was no positive representation of gays anywhere.
No, not at all.
So good times.
Awesome.
So if you were gay and you wanted to be around other gay people, you probably headed to a big city.
That makes sense.
LA, San Francisco, for example, and of course, New York City. And in 1969, there were a lot of gay bars in New York City.
Right. Probably mostly in the West Village.
There you go. And most of them were run by the mafia.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, it is interesting.
It is.
It's not because the mafia was so open-minded.
No, there was a buck to be made.
That's it. They could make money off of this untapped market.
I would imagine they probably engaged in a bit of extortion as well if they observed who was going to these bars.
Oh, Johnny, spoiler.
I'm sorry.
So, don't be sorry. You're just
sorry, not sorry.
You're a very smart man.
No, thank you.
So they would make money off of the gays by serving overpriced, watered down drinks using booze that they had stolen.
Right. Is this 1969 still?
This is 1969.
Okay.
And they would also sell cigarettes that had fallen off of trucks as well.
Oh, yep. Maybe no excise stamp on them.
There you go.
Yeah.
So they had very little overhead to deal with, and the most overhead that they had to worry about were paying off corrupt cops.
Sure, that can be expensive.
It can be,
because there are a lot of them.
Usually, every week they would a cop would come by. You'd hand them a big fat envelope full of cash, and that gave you a certain amount of protection.
But gave the establishment protection anyway.
It would.
Yeah.
And it didn't mean you weren't going to be raided. It just meant probably not as frequently. They'd give you a heads up first. We'll do it earlier in the night so that once everything kind of settles down, you can still have a couple hours to sell some more overpriced, watered down drinks. There was an understanding between the cops, the corrupt cops, and the mafia that ran these bars. So the Stonewall Inn is the gay bar that we're going to talk about tonight, John.
Okay.
I know you've heard of it. It was opened in 1967 as a gay bar by members of the Genovese crime family. And those members in particular were Fat Tony.
Okay. There's no place for fat shaming, Kat. That's what they called him. Okay.
I'm just reporting history here. Zookie.
Okay.
Tony the Sniff, a guy named Joey, very boring, and Matty the Horse.
I mean, I'm just trying to come up with where he got that name. And there's really I can only come to one conclusion. I know. Yeah. What are you going to do?
So these dudes opened up the Stonewall. So if you walked in one night, you walk up to the door at the Stonewall, you knock on the door, and a little window opens up. Somebody looks out, and if they recognize you, or if you looked gay, they would let you in. If you didn't look like you belonged, they would keep you out because you could be an undercover cop pretending to be a gay person coming in to entrap some of their patrons. And that was bad for business.
Not a big selling point for a bar.
No, it's not. No. Not into it. So on the weekends, there was a $3 cover at the door. And that $3, they'll give you 2 drink tickets. So not a bad deal.
No, watered down drinks. But
well, I mean, listen. You do what you got to do. Exactly. So there are 2 and still are. There are 2 windows in the front of the bar, and both were kind of barricaded on the inside and blacked out on the outside. So you couldn't see in, nobody could see out.
Right.
And all the walls were painted black. Bathroom apparently was never serviced, and so it was kind of disgusting.
Oh my God! Yeah.
There was no working sinks behind the bar, or anywhere. So they had nowhere to wash glasses.
They have buckets? I mean,
they had like tubs, and they would just continue to they never changed the water. It was just so there was no back exit or anything. So it was basically a very dark and smelly dump.
Right.
Disgusting. Some might even say.
Right. But if you were a gay person and you wanted to hang out with other gay people, which let's face it, if you're a gay person, you probably do some of the time. Fun. Yeah. I mean, I'm a straight person. I like to hang out with gay people. So
yeah, well,
what are you going to do? Yep. Give it a name.
So, but there was something that drew a lot of people to this bar in particular.
Okay. What was that, Kat?
It was something that they offered that not a lot of other bars did. Music, John.
Live music, Kat?
Not live music.
No.
Jukeboxes.
Oh.
But no other gay bars in New York would play music, because then you'd have gay people dancing together, and that will guarantee to get you shut down.
Oh, was gay people dancing together a crime?
It was.
Or was it just an incitement to?
It was an incitement. It wasn't technically a crime.
Okay.
It had been at one point, but it wasn't in 1969. But it still freaked people out.
Oh, people!
And even other gay people were like, "You shouldn't be doing this. Like, you're drawing attention." And so, like, it was hard to come by,
right?
Except at the Stonewall.
Okay.
So they had 2 dance floors, so you could dance there, right?
Yeah, if you wanna, you can leave your friends behind.
You could dance if you wanna.
Were there men there? Were they wearing hats, or were they without hats? Is the dancing safe, Kat?
I promise there were men in hats.
But okay,
I get the joke. I
know you did. I was seeing how far down that rabbit hole I could take it.
I don't know a lot of the lyrics. You know the more lyrics than I do.
I know them all. I'm sorry to say.
And another thing that attracted people to this shitty dive was that everybody was welcome there.
Unless you looked like a cop.
Unless you were in a uniform.
Well, no, but you said they at the door they looked out,
that's
and
true.
if you didn't look gay or you weren't recognized, yeah,
that's true. But there was there was a regular crowd, and you could very easily get one of your friends to be like, hey, will you tell the dude like that I'm? So it wasn't if you
were vouched for, you could get in.
You could get in, exactly.
There you go.
So at the time, the legal drinking age in New York was 18.
Okay.
And the Stonewall crowd was primarily a younger crowd. We're talking like teenagers and kids in their 20s.
Okay.
It was mostly men, but there were some lesbians.
Okay.
But it had every sort of walk of life within the gay community. There were closeted gays. There were married men, runaway street kids, drag queens and drag kings. Transgender women and other non-gender conforming people. So back in the old days, John,
yes,
as you said earlier, there was the term was transvestites,
right,
and cross-dressers,
right.
And I think today we would know those people to be transgender,
right. Well, I mean, I guess that's the thing. Some people might still identify as transvestites. I mean, Eddie Izzard is someone who made a whole show that was very much centered on his transvestitism. Now he identifies as trans, and I think he's a he. I hope I'm using the correct pronoun. I don't know.
Right. Okay. So, but in the interest of not insulting everybody,
right,
I'm going to go with transgender, and I'm going to go with non-gender conforming.
I like it. These are the terms of now, and I believe that they are accurate. Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
And also there were openly gay artists and intellectuals and straight allies as well that would frequent this place. It was a melting pot of, it sounded like a fucking good time, actually. It sounded like a really cool bunch of people.
Other than the plumbing issues. I would hang at the Stonewall. I would. I would, because I would like to consider myself an ally. I would have liked to have hung.
I think it would have been, we would have a good time there.
I think so.
So as I alluded to before, there were two rooms in the bar. In the front room, it was the main bar. Right. There was some seating, but mainly it was the big dance floor in the center of that room.
Right.
There was one jukebox, and it was mostly pop music they played in the front, and that was where sort of the older crowd hung out usually. Okay. At either end of the bar, there were matching cages with dancing go-go boys.
Yeah, there were. Yeah, fantastic. There were. You go, Stonewall.
And so then in the back room, another dance floor, limited seating, a smaller bar, and the music played more blues, Motown, and soul music. So it was a different music in the back.
Gotcha.
So the club was actually a pretty big moneymaker. It was making its owners a lot of cash.
The Genovese crime family.
Yes, those wonderful people. They were making on an average Friday and Saturday night, they would make around $5,000 per night.
In 1969 money?
And that today is around $35K.
Hell yeah. A night.
That's so much money.
That is so much money. Wow.
That's the mafia, they were doing quite well with all these setups, you know?
Indeed.
So aside from sort of just the regular horrible drink and cover money that they were making, they were also making money through something, John, that you already called out. We're going to call that blackmail.
I am so sorry that I spoiled that. I honestly did. This is not something I knew about, but it just seems like, let's see, we got a gay club at a time when being gay is like almost a crime. I mean, it can be turned into a crime for any, if somebody gets upset with you.
Exactly. Very much.
Yeah. So extortion is something that the mob is very good at. Why wouldn't they engage in that? Yeah.
Exactly. So bar owners would identify wealthier patrons.
Right.
And then they would extort them for money at risk of, outing them publicly. And this went on a lot, apparently. Not just at this bar, but it definitely was going on all over town. So there's a historian named David Carter, and he has a theory as to why the Stonewall was hit that night. The mafia owners of and this is from Wikipedia.
Okay.
The mafia owners of the Stonewall and the manager were blackmailing wealthier customers, particularly those who worked in the financial district.
Sure. Wall Street guys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you could probably, you could probably mark them coming in the room. They probably looked a lot nicer than maybe the 18-year-old street kids. Yeah.
They might be looking over their shoulder a little more.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
They appeared to be making more money from extortion than they were from liquor sales in the bar.
Right.
And David Carter deduces that the police were unable to receive kickbacks from blackmail and the theft of negotiable bonds. And they didn't like it, John.
Oh, they wanted a bigger cut. They were missing out on some of that action.
That's right. A lot of that action.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Enter Inspector Seymour Pine to our play.
Ooh. Dun,
Seymour.
Dun, dun.
Exactly. He's a deputy inspector with the NYPD's Public Morals section.
I read that as anti-gay section.
Yeah, anti-fun, basically.
Yeah. Like
but no, you're right. Mostly anti-gay.
Sure.
So Pine and his team had deduced that the Stonewall Inn was at the center of this blackmail scheme, and it was his job to shut it down.
Oh, okay.
Those were his orders from his boss. Was like, hey, go shut down this gay bar. Let's shut it down. Not just raid it. Let's shut it down.
Okay. I mean, seems like a bad idea because I mean, the cops are making a lot of money off of this joint. They're not making as much as they'd like, but that's I guess that's what they want to. They want to show the muscle. They want to flex, right?
Sure. Well, and the cops that the cops that were ordering Pine to go in there weren't making money off of it. You know what I mean? Gotcha. It was the local cops, the beat cops, that were making the cash.
Oh, see, this is a failure of vision on the part of the mafia. That you need to be paying the big bosses,
the guys up top. Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
So by this time in 1969 in New York, it was not illegal, as we said. It wasn't illegal to serve booze to gays.
Okay.
It was not illegal it wasn't legal for same-sex couples to dance in public, even though it was frowned upon. So Pine had to find something else that he could use as an excuse to shut down this club. So he was going to go after
thing. We need to arrest this guy. Let's reverse engineer how we're going to do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he decides he's going to go after the liquor license. It's operating without a liquor license. So that's what he's going to go for. That's all he's got.
We happen to know there's very little liquor in these drinks.
That's true.
How many parts per million does it?
So on Tuesday, June 24th,
yes,
Pine and his team, small team, raid the Stonewall Inn.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's a Tuesday night. Not as many people there, but still a decent crowd. He arrests some of the employees for operating without a license, and he confiscates all of the booze. He did not let the local precinct know that he was coming in to do it. So the Stonewall had no idea they were coming. They didn't get a heads up.
Right.
And he had done this. Pine had done this, had used the same tactic to raid and close down a bunch of other bars in the West Village. So he had done this before. He's like, this works every time. What could possibly go wrong?
Right.
So the next part of his plan is I went on Tuesday, got the lay of the land, figured out what I'm dealing with. I'm going to go back. He's going to go back on Friday night. He's going to hit the bar again.
Because they're not going to be expecting him to hit him again so quick after the last time. Sure.
He's going to bring more cops. He's going to make a much bigger production out of it.
I get you.
Easy peasy, right? What could go wrong, John? He didn't account for a few things, though.
Oh, what are those things, Kat?
Well, let me tell you, John. The Stonewall Inn was a very popular place.
As I've gathered.
It was full of people who had had a fucking enough of being harassed and pushed around.
Yeah.
They were tired of these motherfucking raids. It wasn't illegal to serve booze to gay people. Gay people could dance in public. So why did they keep picking on this group of people?
Right.
It was getting old.
Yep.
And the gay community was seeing other marginalized groups getting foothold. There, women were getting more rights. Black community was slowly kind of getting more rights, maybe not really.
Sure.
But gays were still openly harassed and beaten and victimized, and nobody gave a shit. Nobody gave a shit.
Right. I mean, the Civil Rights Bill was signed in 1964. This is 5 years later. Black people, at least on paper, have rights.
That's right.
But gay people on paper are like, they don't have rights. They're specifically excluded. Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
It's bad times.
And so, constant bar raids, undercover cops were cruising and busting people for soliciting sex, for even showing interest in sex with these undercover cops, and seeing all the brutality at different protests all over the country. Cops were basically enemy number one, and they were a symbol of oppression to these gay kids.
Good thing that never happened again.
Yeah, after this, everything worked out.
Everything, like, cops really figured it out and they got their act together.
Yep. The end.
The end.
No.
Thank you. Kat, that was a great episode. No. Thanks a lot. No. Okay.
So then we go back. Okay. He's going to go bust him up on Friday night, right?
Right.
Well, Friday night is the busiest night at the Stonewall Inn.
I'm not surprised.
And there were some people there on Tuesday, but it was packed on Friday night.
And he was bringing more cops, but maybe not enough more cops.
Ding, ding, ding. And he wasn't going to come until after midnight. So by that time, they'd had hours to consume lots of alcohol and probably some drugs.
Hey, I mean, yes. I'm thinking, I don't know. Did they have? Yeah, no, never mind.
There's probably some pills. There's lots of weed. They were having a good fucking time.
Quaaludes, I'm guessing, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe that was the 70s. I don't know what. Like they would have cocaine. There would be cocaine. There would be weed. Both of which would be highly frowned upon at that time.
Oh, I'm sure. And it was also a very hot night. Remember, we're in the middle of summer in New York.
Right.
Super hot, kind of gross.
Yeah, there's no ventilation in this place. It's got like one door in and out. The windows do not open. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bad scene.
It's a shit show, Kat.
It's a shit show. Mm-hmm. And a week before this raid, on June 20th, in New York, in Queens, a mob of about 20 local men descended upon Flushing Meadows Corona Park and cut down a grove of trees that had been known as a gay cruising spot.
Oh, boy.
All while a bunch of police watched and did absolutely nothing.
Sure.
So all this crammed into a small little club. The gays were pissed, John. They were pissed. They were ready for something like this to happen. Yeah.
It was boiling point.
That's it.
Yeah.
So Inspector Pine had the perfect plan, John. Perfect plan. He was gonna send in 4 undercover cops, 2 men, 2 women, to pose as patrons.
Right.
They'd go in, get a lay of the land, kind of get a feel for all the patrons, see who are the employees, who are the patrons, kind of just, try to get as much intel as they could.
Sure.
They would then leave the bar, go across the street to Christopher Park, meet up with Pine and the rest of his team, regroup. Okay, this is what we saw. There's this guy, whatever. And then everybody's going to go back, all 9. So there's 9 officers total, including Pine.
Oh, only 9. Ooh, okay.
There's 9.
Yeah.
Again,
9 guys.
There's been a lot of mistakes so far. So,
sure.
You call them out whenever you see them.
Fair enough.
So these 9 jokers, they go back, they cross the street. They're going to, get into the bar. They're going to announce that it's a raid. They're going to let the 6th precinct, is the local department. They're going to let the 6th precinct know, hey guys, surprise, we're raiding a local bar. You need to come and help us. Okay. They're going to let them know. They're going to take all the booze. They're going to arrest all the employees. They're going to remove the jukeboxes. They're going to be considered evidence. They're going to remove the jukeboxes, and they're going to remove the bars.
Oh.
How are they going to do that, John? Let me tell you.
Yeah, how are they going to do that? Cat.
The plan was to cut them up into pieces and walk them out the front door.
Oh, wow. The hubris. I mean,
He was also going to arrest one non-gender conforming patron as a way to still show that it was illegal to cross-dress. And I'm doing air quotes here, to cross-dress.
I see them, but our
just for fun.
Don't. Sure, right.
We'll just arrest one person just for fun.
A cautionary tale.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They'll release the rest of the patrons after they show proper ID, make sure they're not underage.
Right.
And everyone will go on their way. That'll be it. Good plan, right, John?
No.
Oh, what?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it's not good in the sense of this is right and just. And also, somebody's about to get their ass handed to them. And it's not the non-gender conforming person in the Stonewall. And that makes me happy.
Well, I know. This is I think you're going to like the rest of the story.
Nice.
So the plan proceeds as, according to Pine's mastermind, okay?
Uh-huh.
So the 4 undercover cops, they go into the bar, they do their thing. So, we will sort of pick up the plan at around 1:20.
Mm-hmm.
Inspector Seymour Pine and his team walk to the bar, and he pounds on the door saying, "Police, we're taking the place."
Mm-hmm.
So one of the doormen has enough time to flash the lights, which tells everybody inside, we're being raided.
Right.
We're about to be raided again.
Right. But there's no back exit. So nobody's going anywhere.
No, you basically have a couple seconds to John, we're there, we're dancing, we're having drinks, we're having a great time, music's playing, and then flash, 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 fucking panic, your worst nightmare. You could be arrested. You could
maybe throw your drugs in the corner.
Exactly. Not only is the party over, your life could never be the same. Who knows?
Sure. Right.
This is serious shit. Let's just
it is. I don't want to diminish this at all. It's a scary thing. Yeah.
It's very scary. So the cops very quickly, they get the door open, they come inside, and they secure the door so that no one can get out. So basically everybody's trapped. No one is going anywhere.
Right.
So they say, okay, everybody line up over there. We're going to start checking IDs. Going to be over really quick. Don't get any ideas. Everything's going to be fine. Just do what we tell you to do. Get on with your night.
That's exactly what I said to my wife on our honeymoon. I'm sorry. It's going to be over really quick. Just do everything I tell you to do, and everything's going to be fine.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry, Kat. I'm sorry. I could not resist.
So while people are starting to line up, one of Pine's team goes to a payphone down the street and calls the 6th precinct and says, "Hey guys, guess what? We're raiding one of your bars. Can you please send backup?" So a couple of cops arrive on foot who are just kind of patrolling around on foot. They show up.
These are local precinct guys, right?
Local precinct guys.
Which we know what that means.
Well, who knows? I don't know if they're all on the take. I don't know. That's a good question.
Even if they're not all on it, let me just, I'm going to tell you right now, people know about this kind of thing. So,
for sure. I'm sure I'm sure everybody knew. You're right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So a couple guys on foot and 3 squad cars show up as well.
Yep.
To help kind of, manage what's happening inside.
Right.
And they start to sort everybody into 3 categories, John.
Oh boy. I'm not gonna like this part, Kat.
I mean, it's okay. The employees, gender nonconforming, so basically people wearing clothes of the opposite sex, and everybody else basically.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, great. And the undercover cops knew who the employees were, so they're pointing people out, and it's the plan, John.
Yeah.
Is working beautifully
up until now. Up to now.
Yeah, so far it's going really good. It's going great.
Yep.
So, as patrons with proper ID and who aren't underage are checked and released, okay. They're free to go.
Right.
But those without those IDs and, of course, those who were gender nonconforming had to stay inside. They were detained inside for possible arrest. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't clear yet what the plan was. to the patrons. They weren't sure what was going on.
Pine and his thugs knew what was up, but
they did. Mm-hmm. And so normally, John, after if you were in a bar that was raided, but you were then released to go, normally people would just leave. They get the fuck out. They'd
be like, oh, thank goodness, I'm getting out of here with my butt intact. Yeah,
exactly. Go to another bar, or just go somewhere else to congregate, or just go home.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
But not tonight, John.
I like this.
Those patrons who were released, they stayed outside.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to make sure their friends were going to be okay. They were waiting for other people to be released. And so, there's a small group of people that is slowly getting bigger as more people are being left outside of this bar. And as other people in the gay community are cruising by, like maybe going to another bar or going home, they're like, hey, what's going on, guys?
We're gathering people who weren't even in the bar at the time when the raid occurred. I like this.
Some tourists kind of wandered in as well. So there's tourists there and neighborhood residents who could see what was going on from their bedroom windows. I'm like, what's going on down there? So slowly a crowd is gathering, John.
Mm. You know what cops don't like, Kat?
What's that, John?
Crowds. Crowds that aren't them.
They don't like that.
I mean, that's my guess.
So in this point of the night, there's about 100 people gathered outside the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And Pine, who's inside, executing his perfect plan, has no idea that this crowd is gathering.
Right.
Because you can't see outside, right? You have no idea what's going on.
No, the windows are blacked out.
He later stated, usually when we went to work, everybody disappeared. They were glad to get away.
Sure. No, I mean, listen, I've been that guy who slunk away when the party got busted and I was lucky enough to be released.
Yeah, you just want to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, but I was not a member of a persecuted minority who was looking out for my brothers and sisters at that time.
There you go. So as patrons were being let out, after they were allowed to go, they were brought out one at a time. So imagine it, John. There's about a crowd of about 100 people out front. Everyone's just kind of milling about. Mm-hmm. Their focus is on the bar. It's almost as if there's an audience watching a play. Okay? So imagine it like that.
Sure. And people are entering onto the stage as they come out of the bar. And there's about 100 of them, and there's 9 cops. I'm just setting the scene in my mind.
Yeah, please.
Right. So 9 cops, 100 people outside, an unknown number of people inside who are being brought out one at a time by probably 2 cops.
That would make sense to me. I'll buy it.
Okay.
So as each participant, or I should say, as each patron was brought out, they quickly saw what we are imagining as basically this is their moment. So they hammed it up a bit. They would take a bow. They would throw their arms up. They would throw insults at the cops. They were
this is proto drag race, is what I'm thinking.
Kind of.
I mean,
and as no, it's hilarious. As the crowd is getting into it, they start to applaud as these different characters were being led away. It was like it was fucking theater. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, John, the paddy wagon showed up.
Oh boy.
So, what does that tell you? When a paddy wagon shows up, what does that tell the crowd?
People are about to be arrested, loaded up, taken away to jail, and Lord knows what's going to happen to them there. Yeah.
So shit's about to get real. So people are maybe getting a little more tense about what's about to happen.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the party atmosphere is starting to sour.
It is.
Mm-hmm. So
the bar employees were arrested first. So that's who was brought out first. So once all the patrons that were being released were done, now it's the detainees are next. Okay. So the mafia guys are actually brought out first. Like the managers would come out first.
Oh boy.
And then
Fat Tony and Just Tony and Joey the horse.
Tony. I don't know if Fat Tony and his friends were there that night. I don't know if they were arrested. Right. It may have been their underlings.
Sure.
But basically anybody who worked at the bar, was brought out first and loaded into the paddy wagon. And so back inside the bar, away from the view of the crowd, it was who were left was mostly the trans and gender nonconforming detainees. And they were putting up, let's say, a bit of resistance to being detained.
As one might.
As I would imagine I would too.
Mm-hmm.
Because part of the deal, if you were trans or gender nonconforming, they wanted to make sure that they were arresting the right person. So they would frisk you, John, and they would demand to see your genitals.
Oh, great.
Before they could technically arrest you. So, as you can imagine, they didn't like that very much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Why would you have any objection to just flashing your genitals to a police officer out in public? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this group of people they were resisting arrest. Yeah. And you know what? Inspector Pine, he didn't like that very much.
Yeah.
So instead of only arresting one token member of this group, he decided, you know what? Fuck it. I'm arresting all of you.
Seems like he made a bad decision there, Kat. I mean, I'm just going out on a limb here. I'm taking a flyer, but yeah.
Where are you getting that from, John?
I don't know. I'm crazy sometimes.
So this group of people is now being arrested and brought outside.
Yep.
They are still putting up a fight.
Sure.
And the cops are not being gentle about it. Some could say they're being a bit excessive with their force. Wait
a minute, Kat. I just want to make sure I understand the implications of what you are doing here. You're impugning the character of these peace officers and maybe implying that they might be using force in an excessive manner. And that just really doesn't square with the observations that I've had from police in my time. So I will just caution you to be careful.
Anyway.
Yeah, okay. They're beating them up and it's not okay.
It's not okay.
No.
So the crowd sees this. So, now the trans and gender nonconforming detainees are being brought out one at a time.
Right.
And the crowd is beginning to get angry because they're seeing their friends being roughed up.
Sure.
And as one after the other are coming out, the crowd realizes, oh, all of this group is being arrested. They're arresting all the transgendered people and all the gender nonconforming.
Yeah.
And again, the crowd was not okay with that.
I'm down with this crowd.
So tension was building because the more the cops were roughing up these detainees, the more the detainees were struggling and resisting and fighting back. So it's coming to a point, sort of a flashpoint, if you will.
Sure.
I think it's safe to say that at this point, Pine's plan is not going well.
No, he's outnumbered more than 10 to 1. Mm-hmm. He's aggravating the crowd by treating these people with like animals. I feel like Pine not on his game tonight.
He's not. And on top of what you just mentioned, that crowd is continuing to get larger and larger. And he doesn't have enough space to transport all these people he's now decided to arrest.
Okay, this is just a logistics problem, Kat. I mean,
and by the way, he's unable to reach the dispatch center at the 6th precinct. So there's still no backup since that first original. Yeah.
I love it. Somebody's running a jammer. That's what I want to think. I want to think
maybe
that there's some guy. Never mind. Never mind. I was about to describe something that in my mind was really great. And as I heard myself start to describe it, I'm like, I can't say that.
Wow, I'm impressed, John. You did a little self-editing there.
Yeah. It's about time we old white guys stopped and thought about what we said before we said it.
Oh, I love to hear you say that. So on top of all this tension that's growing and growing, enter into the scene the lesbians.
Yeah.
Now, there are witness accounts that confirm that there were some lesbians there that night. And because of the rule, because you weren't allowed to wear opposite sex clothing, or cross dress is an easier way to say that. I don't know if that's better, but the rule was, John, you had to be wearing at least 3 pieces of clothing to your assigned gender. So, for instance, right now, I would be considered cross-dressing because I'm wearing a unisex t-shirt. I'm wearing capris made for a man.
Okay.
And I'm wearing women's underwear. But that's only one, so I'm fucked. I'm arrested. Okay. I'm going to jail.
Wait, are you wearing a bra, Kat?
I am, so that's 2. I'm still missing 1.
Okay, that's 2. Yep.
It's fine. You're right. I did mention my bra. I know. I'm sorry.
Your glasses are feminine. No, they're not. It's okay.
They're not. Okay.
I mean, they're more feminine than Billie Jean King's, but they're yeah. I love Billie Jean King. Don't get me wrong.
She's a fucking hero. But yeah, she was not there. She was not there that night.
She was not there that night. No. She was probably a teenager that night.
She probably was. So, because these were mostly butch lesbians, they were considered to be breaking that rule. And so they were also in that group of people getting arrested. And as I stated before, and especially it seemed like with the lesbians, the cops were more than happy to grope them.
Yeah.
And to rough them up a little bit more, to kind of like, hey, you think you're tough? Let's see what happens when I grope you and I maybe am a little rougher with you. So that was happening.
There's a certain type of masculine mentality that would really get an extra amount of joy out of not just groping, but knowing that they're humiliating the person that they're groping.
That's exactly it. So there was one butch lesbian in particular that was being roughed up by the cops as she was resisting. So they're bringing her out of the club. She's resisting. And, to kind of calm her down, the police, this one particular cop, hits her in the head with his nightstick.
Oh, boy. That doesn't calm me down.
No. What? It doesn't?
No. I find that when someone hits me in the head with a nightstick, if I retain consciousness, I tend to be pretty pissed.
So then they handcuff her, and they proceed to move her towards one of the squad cars. Now, there are witness accounts that identify this woman as a butch lesbian of the day named Stormy Delavore. She herself has said at some times in her life, yes, that was me. Another time she said, no, that wasn't me. So we don't know for sure who this was, but we do have witness accounts that it was a butch lesbian. So we're going with that. Right. So, they're bringing her out. The paddy wagon is full of the mafia guys and the bartenders, and there's some transgender, non-conforming people in there. Mm-hmm. So the cops decide, okay, we're going to use these squad cars to start loading people in as well. Because until that, magical backup gets here, we're left with what we got. So they're moving this lesbian towards one of those squad cars. She's continuing to be combative and resisting arrest. And so they get her inside one of the cars, and she jumps out and runs around the other side.
I love it. She doesn't just run away. She runs to the other side of the car.
They grab her again. They put her in the back of the car. She does the same thing again. This happens several times until the last time when they pick her up, literally pick her up, throw her into the back. Yeah. And as she's being thrown into the back of this car, she is quoted as saying, "Why don't you guys do something?" Meaning to the crowd, she says this.
Yeah.
And so, John...
Yeah?
The crowd did something.
Fuck yeah. I love it when a crowd does something when it should. Crowds doing things in general can be scary, but yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it sounds like this is the right thing.
So this is the moment where this demonstration turned protest now turns into a riot. The patrons on the outside in this sort of crowd starting to now yell obscenities at the cops. Some of them are throwing pennies at the cops as if to say, we're going to pay you off to get the fuck out of here. We're paying you off with pennies. When they run out of pennies, they start throwing whatever they have in their pockets. So quarters, dimes, it doesn't matter.
Wow. Yeah.
Nickels.
And I feel like that's the name of one of the Genovese crime family who owns it. Joey Nichols.
It's Nichols. Joey Nichols.
Joey 5 cents. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, as this whole scene is taking place, word of what's going on spreads very quickly around the village. So now there's a steady stream of people showing up. And so now someone in the crowd, we don't know who, throws a bottle.
Okay.
this next part, John, is heavily debated. It is attributed to some people in particular, but there's really no evidence to suggest that we know who these people are. The people who started throwing the rocks or the bricks.
Okay.
Some people say that there was a construction site nearby that had a bunch of bricks laying around, and those were thrown. And then some people who were there said there was not a construction site anywhere near the bar. Some people say that, there was cobblestones in the street, and people started throwing those. Again, there's no way of knowing for sure, unfortunately. We don't have a very accurate historical record of this night.
So until somebody perfects time travel.
Yeah.
We just have to assume somehow some people got a hold of some things.
Big, heavy things.
Projectiles. Yeah.
Most famously, Marsha P. Johnson is credited with doing this. She was an activist and she was a member of this community. She was there that night. So later she says, "Oh no, I was there, but I didn't show up until like 2 a.m. once everything was going down." So she's like, "That wasn't me." It doesn't matter who threw it first. What matters is it got thrown. Bricks were thrown, rocks were thrown, and this is the beginning of the shitstorm. If you thought it wasn't going well for the cops before, it's about to get a lot worse.
Okay.
So projectiles are being thrown. A smaller crowd rushes the police vehicles. They start banging on the windows and banging on the doors. They're banging on the paddy wagon. They start pushing the cars. So they're rocking the cars because that's all they can do. They don't know what else to do. They're pissed off and they want their friends out of those cars and out of those paddy wagon.
They're making their will known in the way that they have available to them in the moment. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. So Inspector Pine, remember Inspector Pine?
Oh yeah, that guy. The guy with the plan.
Mr. Big Brain. He decides, okay, we're going to send the paddy wagon and the squad cars out of here. You guys go back with the prisoners to the 6th precinct, unload everybody, come back, and bring a bunch of dudes with you.
Okay, because he hasn't been able to get through on the radio.
Still no communication. So they do. They take off. So now that leaves 9 people left, including Pine, to deal with the situation.
Okay.
So this small outnumbered force of cops has to do a couple of things. They have to secure the crime scene so that evidence is still, they can still prove that illegal shit's been going on.
Yeah. Hey, Kat, have they cut up the bar and carried it out? Because it doesn't seem like they've had time to do that at this point. That was part of that master plan.
They have not done that.
Yeah, okay.
That's true. They haven't done that.
Just checking in.
They need to control the remaining prisoners until they can be transported.
Mm-hmm. Right. And
they have to control this ever-growing angry mob that is slowly surrounding them.
I've never loved a mob more in my life.
It's the best mob ever. Yeah. So, John, they did the only thing they could. They ran back into the bar and they bolted the door. So
let me get this straight. This has now gone from being a gay bar to being a cop bar where they have barricaded themselves inside.
That's right.
In order to protect themselves from the people who they were trying to persecute to begin with. That's okay.
That's it.
This is my favorite turn of events.
So this retreat was seen by the crowd as an occupation.
Yeah.
So not only have they just been kicked out of the bar, seen all their friends roughed up, a bunch of them are being arrested. Now the cops, as you say, are turning it into their bar. Mm-hmm. And this does not sit well with the crowd, John.
No, this will not sit, Kat. This aggression will not sit.
So from inside the bar, Pine and his friends start to hear the thumps of bricks and rocks and bottles and anything else that people could find hitting the outside of the Stonewall Inn. And they could also hear all the shouting, John. So, and along with the cops inside, there's still a bunch of detainees. There's a bartender still in there. So I feel bad for those people.
If I was one of those cops, I'll tell you right now, I'd order a vodka soda, like stat. On duty or no, Papa needs some coping juice. Yeah.
Get back there. Start making us dregs.
That's right.
So this group of subjugated people, they'd been beaten up and they'd been harassed. And finally, they were winning.
Yeah.
They were winning and the cops were The cops were losing, and that never happened before.
Kat, if they were lubing, then this is a whole different story.
Listen.
There was no way I was not making that joke. There was no way that joke was not coming. Okay.
I set you up for that one. So, the crowd outside, they're throwing anything they can find. Cans, bottles, trash cans. By all accounts, the most impassioned group of this crowd were the effeminate men. They call themselves the queens. They dress, they wore like super tight jeans and men's clothing, but they were very effeminate, and they were usually the younger dudes, and they were leading the fucking charge.
Yeah. Hell hath no fury.
They had it, they'd had enough. Like they had been taking a lot of shit. So one group of these effeminate dudes and a couple of muscular gays, they uprooted a parking meter.
Whew.
And then used it as a battering ram.
So they did.
They were able to pound the door into submission, basically. The door flew open.
They broke it down.
It gave way, and as soon as it opened, the rest of the crowd just showered that opening with anything they could find.
Wow.
So inside with the cops and the detainees and the bartender, there's also a reporter with the Village Voice who ran in with the cops to kind of cover the story from the inside.
He's embedded, if you will.
He's embedded, and he can confirm that one of those hurled objects actually hits one of the uniformed cops in the face.
Okay.
So there's blood. It's not as bad. It looks worse than it is.
Right.
But, this upsets the police, John. They don't like this.
Yeah, and they have guns, so you don't want to upset people with guns generally.
They do have guns. You're right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's not forget that.
No, never.
So 3 of the cops run to the door because they're afraid that people are going to start streaming in, and they're going to be overwhelmed, and they're fucked. So to kind of hopefully intimidate people, they kind of rush the door to hope the crowd kind of stays back, which it does, but it just they continue to throw shit at the cops. Pine, who is a World War II vet, by the way, and saw some shit. He decides he's going to run. He runs to the door. He grabs the nearest protester that he can find, pulls him inside the door.
Oh boy!
Closes it, and so now there's a guy inside the bar. And I'm sure he's like, whoa, how did I get in here?
This is Operation Human Shield? What's going on here?
I don't know why Pine does this. I would love to ask him, what was the plan with the guy that you grabbed? So the dude he ends up grabbing, his name is Dave Von Ronk. Turns out he's a straight guy who was having dinner down the street, happened to see a commotion and wanted to come and join the crowd because he was sort of pro the community. He was like, fuck the police kind of thing.
Nice.
So they proceed to punch Dave in the face and handcuff him to a radiator.
Not nice.
That's it.
Not nice. I don't like either one of those things. I mean, if I had to choose one, it would be the radiator, but like getting both, no way.
So by this point, the convoy had more than enough time to go drop off the detainees and come back with reinforcements, and they have not done that, John. There's no way to confirm why they didn't show up.
Let's just celebrate the fact that they didn't.
We'll leave it at that. That's fine.
No. I did not mean to cut you off. I'm just like, I'm excited that they didn't because it's keeping things. I know. It
makes it better.
Mm-hmm.
The theory is that because they felt like their turf was being invaded, if you will, without them knowing about it, they were upset about that.
Sure.
And they didn't want to show up quite yet.
Well, these guys, this is part of their livelihood too. I mean, some of these guys are getting a lot of money out of this thing, and these out-of-towners, or at least out-of-jurisdictioners, are coming in and messing up their game.
That's right. So the cops inside start to barricade the door. They start to throw furniture, whatever they can find. They just start putting it in front of the door to hopefully to slow down the crowd from coming in.
Right.
As you'll remember, there's two windows.
Yep.
And there's glass on the outside. There's plywood on the inside.
Okay.
So by the time through this sort of melee, the glass is gone, as you would imagine. It's completely busted out.
Right.
And the plywood on the inside is starting to get broken through just from the amount of stuff being thrown. So slowly that plywood is breaking apart.
Yeah.
And then, John, that's when the fires get started.
Okay, Kat. Now hold up. It's all been good fun until you you bring fire into it in a place with one exit that's now barricaded. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a little worried.
I definitely don't agree with this move.
Okay.
I don't, because their people are inside still.
They're
as well as
prisoners.
The cops. So I don't agree with this move, but it happens. So some of the crowd,
rage is a thing, and it does not respond well to reason.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So some of the crowd create little fire bombs with bottles with lighter fluid and a fuse. They've thrown those. And then some dudes filled a trash can with other trash, lit the trash on fire, and then pushed the trash can through the plywood in the window.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I'm only laughing because it's such a terrible idea. Like, your buddies are inside. Don't start a fire in a fire trap.
Yeah, I mean, maybe everybody's going to have to run out. Maybe I'd like to think that there's some reason behind it, but the mentality of crowds is tough. It
is. Fair enough. Yes. So by this point, by the time the fires start, the cops and detainees have been inside the bar for 30 minutes.
Oh boy.
30 minutes is a long time when you're fucking scared for your life.
Oh yeah, I peed my pants 3 times at least already.
I'm peeing my pants right now. And by this time, the crowd now has grown to, some people say, around 2,000 people.
Oh, wow. Okay, so yeah, we were at 100 before. We're big. It's a lot of people.
We're big.
Now. Yeah.
It's a huge crowd.
Yeah.
And they're angry and violent. So the cops inside, they need to come up with another plan, John, because backup does not appear to be coming.
This is not looking good for these cops.
So they find a small air vent in the back of the bar.
Okay.
And one of the undercover female cops is able to shimmy through the vent and make her way onto the roof. Now, Pine tells her, look, you get to the roof. If you find a fire escape, don't come down the front because people are going to see it.
Yeah.
Go around the back, get to a fire station that was nearby, tell them to come and put out the fire, and to let the cops at the sixth precinct know what's going on.
Right.
So she takes off.
What happens next, Kat?
Let me tell you, John, what happens next is actually the smartest thing that Pine has done all night, and I actually give him credit for what he's about to do.
It's a pretty low bar, Kat. It's a pretty low bar.
Because he had been through World War II, he did something that had worked for him there.
Okay.
So what he does is he goes to each and every one of the remaining officers, and he looks them in the eye, and he says, do not fire your gun.
Okay.
He says if one person, because he would later say his reasoning was because if one shot goes off, they're all going off.
Yeah.
And he realized what a huge disaster that would have been.
Yeah, because people in the crowd would die, and then the cops would definitely die. And
that's it. Can you imagine?
I will give him I will give him credit.
Those cops apart.
Yeah, I will give him credit for at least being smart enough to save his own ass. Because honestly, I think if he felt that they could have shot their way out and with impunity, it seems like he might have gone that route. But he knew that he would have lost men and women if that had happened. Yeah.
For what? And there's no way of disputing that.
Nope.
So for whatever reason he did it, I'm really glad that he did it.
Me too.
And it worked. Not a single shot was fired, which was actually fucking amazing.
It is. Yeah. I'm
shocked, actually.
Yeah, I know. I honestly could not have told you before you started telling me this story whether any shots were fired. I'm very happy to learn that none were. Mm-hmm.
Me too. Because it would have been a very different situation.
Yeah.
So finally backup arrives, John, and it has been 45 minutes since the cops have gone inside.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as the rioters, and by this point it's a riot, it's they're no longer a crowd, they are a mob of rioters.
Once Molotov cocktails and rocks and bricks, I mean that's a riot. That's not a peaceful protest. It's not a demonstration.
No. They're demonstrating great violence.
How to riot. They're demonstrating how to riot. It's a masterclass in rioting.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as the rioters hear the sirens, they scatter, but they don't leave. They just sort of scatter. So they're harder to kind of chase and pin down. So keep that in mind. They don't leave, John. They scatter.
Okay? Right. They go off to the periphery.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the backup consists of 30 officers. Now, they're still outnumbered, but it's better than 9.
I mean, I will if I have to go up against a crowd of 1,000 people, I'll take 30 over 9, but I'm not real happy.
Exactly. I'm not thrilled, but I'll take it.
I'm not feeling super arrogant, confident.
So Pine orders his men and these new reinforcements to load the detainees that are still inside the Stonewall into this fresh, empty paddy wagon that has showed up with the cops.
Right.
So Dave, do you remember Dave Von Ronk?
I remember that name because he's the guy who got pulled inside, but it's an interesting name.
Yeah, and then punched in the face for no fucking reason.
And chained to a radiator. Yeah.
That's right. He is quoted as saying, "No, it's not good to be Dave Von Ronk."
Von Ronk right now, no.
So he's quoted as saying, "There were more people out there when I came out than when I went in. Things were still flying through the air. Cacophony. I mean, just screaming and yelling, sirens, strobe lights, the whole spaghetti." I love Dave.
David Van Ronk. You wonderful
guy.
Poet, you. The whole spaghetti. I mean, I really need... Forgive me. This is a very serious thing, but I need to know if that was actually like a phrase back then, or if he's the kind of guy who could coin a term like the whole spaghetti on the fly.
Frankly, why that hasn't caught on, I don't know.
You know what? I'm never going to not use that now. Anytime like the whole mess, it's always going to be the whole spaghetti for me now.
I love it so much. That might be a good T-shirt for us, the whole spaghetti.
Oh, yeah. My mistake. The whole spaghetti.
The whole spaghetti.
There it is. All right. Fund it. Fund it.
So the detainees are, as you would imagine, again, resisting being arrested. And the crowd is continuing to yell and throw things at the cops. Mm-hmm. And now the cops are starting to arrest even more people, which is upsetting the crowd even more.
Sure.
They even tried using high-pressure hoses to disperse the mob, but it was not working.
Mm-hmm.
So then, John, enter into our play, the Riot Squad.
Okay. Tell me about the Riot Squad.
I can't wait to tell you about the Riot
Squad. I figured you were going to.
So what is described as busloads of the NYPD's Riot Squad shows up. Mm-hmm. And if you were in the village in that time period, you knew who these guys were. Okay. They were called the Tactical Patrol Force, the TPF for short. Mm-hmm. And normally when they showed up to any kind of a protest or a gathering of some kind, their arrival would thin out a crowd quickly.
Yeah.
But it didn't work this time. People did not run away from these guys.
Mm-hmm.
So they did their classic maneuver. They assumed their usual tactic, which was to sweep a street. So they would form a line that would span across an entire street.
Right.
They get their shields out.
Mm-hmm.
They got their helmets on. They have their nightsticks.
Kat, I don't know why I'm having deja vu right here for some reason. I don't know why, because clearly nobody does this anymore. This is barbaric, and they must have stopped this practice a long time ago.
Yeah, of course. So,
okay.
So they're walking down the street, and as they go, it's basically the one of the books I read called it a phalanx of nightsticks, basically coming at you. And if you or I were out on the street and you saw this line of dudes, I would get the fuck out of there. It's a scary thing to come up against.
It might depend on just how much shit I've eaten over the last, however many years.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But yeah, no, and, like you or I right now, yeah, I would probably, I'd probably hightail it out of there.
That's very scary.
Yep.
And up until this point, this tactic had worked through the streets of New York. No problem. Just like Pine, they'd done it before. They know what to do. What's the problem? So the problem, John, is that the West Village is not what you would call a traditional street grid. In fact, it's kind of a fucking mess.
Okay. Let's hear it for fucking messes.
Let me explain a little bit. So according to Wikipedia, the roads in this part of town were laid out in a 18th century grid plan, approximately parallel or perpendicular to the Hudson. Even streets that were given numbers in the 19th century to make them nominally part of the grid can be idiosyncratic at best. For example, West 4th Street, formerly known as Asylum Street, crosses West 10th, 11th, and 12th Streets, ending at an intersection with West 13th Street. The streets don't make fucking sense. And if you look at a map, it's like, boop, 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 boop. It's just, it looks like some sort of strange puzzle, or, sort of, what are those when you try to get out of the, what are those called? A maze. It looks like a maze.
Labyrinth, a maze. Yeah.
Yes. Let's call it that.
Mm-hmm.
So because the crowd was a hometown crowd, they knew the streets very well, John.
Yeah.
So they realized very quickly that they could cut down a side street, double back around the block, and then be behind this line of cops.
Which is not what they like, because they all have their shield facing in the wrong direction at that point.
They don't like this, John.
No, this is not what they signed up for.
So their sweep was not working.
Mm-hmm.
And they ended up basically playing a cat and mouse chase with this crowd. Who had no interest in going home. And so when I imagined it, I imagined yakety sax playing. While these dudes are just they are running circles around these cops.
With a little higher stakes than Benny Hill, but still. Definitely yakety sax. Uh-huh.
So while all this is happening, while this chase is on in the streets, there are still plenty of people in the crowd who are still shouting at the cops and throwing bottles and lighting trash cans on fire. So it's fucking chaos. It's pretty chaotic scene. So some of the street kids, the gay street kids, began mocking the police with a line of their own.
Oh,
they were locking arms and kicking in unison, creating a Broadway kick line of resistance.
This is the Rockettes happening.
This is exactly the Rockettes.
In the West Village at 2 a.m.
So while they were kicking, they were singing a song to the tune of the Howdy Doody Show. Do you know that song?
I do. It's Howdy. Oh God!
No, you do it. You do it.
No, we should never sing. Because I realized. Here's the thing. I was totally off key, and so were you, and we weren't off key in the same way. All right, let's try this. You ready?
We were harmonizing out of key. Okay, ready?
Okay, 2, 3, 4. It's howdy doody time. It's howdy doody time.
Perfect.
Yes. All right.
So to that tune, they were singing, "We are the Stonewall girls. We wear our hair in curls. We don't wear underwear to show our pubic hair."
Which everybody had back then.
That's true. A lot of
Just for you millennials. Just want you to know.
They're also taunting the police by calling them Lillian Law, Betty Badge, and Patty Pig, among other things.
Oh my goodness.
So these TFP dudes are being mocked and outsmarted by a bunch of gay kids that should have been afraid of them.
They should have, really.
And then,
bless them for not.
I know. God, I love these guys so much.
I know.
So this part of our show goes on for about an hour.
Yep.
The kick lining and the cat and mouse. So sometime around 4 a.m., things settle down.
Okay.
The rioters have mostly escaped into the neighborhood, and the police have taken control of the streets.
Sure, as they inevitably would. I mean,
of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Although a taste of victory had been enjoyed here by some people who were sorely in need of it.
So from the moment that our buddy Pine was knocking on that door to the end of this riot, it was 3 hours.
Wow.
No one died or was critically injured, which is a fucking miracle.
It is a miracle.
Few officers reported minor injuries, but that's it.
Okay.
A total of 13 people were arrested that night.
Mm-hmm.
Pine and his unit confiscated less than 20 bottles of booze and about 30 cases of beer.
Okay.
But during the raid itself and during the time that they were trapped inside, they busted the shit out of everything.
Yeah.
Jukeboxes were destroyed. Cigarette machines were turned over. Everything was fucked up. You can actually there's a photo of this if you look for it. There's some good photos of the night. Not enough for my liking. I would have loved to see more, but you can see a photo of the bar. It's just fucking trashed.
It's almost like there was just like a tidal wave of toxic masculinity inside that bar that night, you know? I mean, although there might have been some toxic femininity too, because there was at least one female cop who, by the way,
that's true. Yeah.
What happened to her?
Don't know. She leaves our play. We never see her again.
She successfully fucked off into that good night.
Oh, that's amazing. So for the next several days, the streets continued to be a place for protest and for, so that next night specifically, there was another riot. People started showing up during the day just to kind of come and look and see, this is the place. Because everybody knew about it. By the time, the papers were out in the morning, people knew what was going on.
Sure.
Someone had even printed out a bunch of leaflets. Some gay activists had printed out leaflets and handed them out. And they said stuff like, get the mafia and the cops out of gay bars. So basically they were like, this is our moment. Like, this is how we can turn this into a movement.
Yeah. This is where the flashpoint of the riot turned into the flashpoint of a movement.
That's right. A movement is born.
Yeah.
As sort of darkness falls on the street that first night, the cops show up. And this kind of provokes the crowd, and a lot of the same things that happened the night before happen again. There's yelling, there's throwing, there's kick lines. The TFP show up again, so it's a little more the same. The protesters take to the streets. They're stopping traffic. They're jumping on cars, and they're showing that they're not taking the shit anymore.
Right.
And the next couple of nights, things kind of quiet down, and then on Wednesday, July 2nd. The Village Voice publishes a piece in its paper that uses homophobic language and phrases like forces of faggotry and Sunday fag follies to describe what happens over that weekend. And as you can imagine, people didn't like that. So there was another protest that night.
I have to tell you that what I know of the Village Voice my whole lifetime, and I was born in 1970, is that it has always been a very progressive, forward, type of publication. It's interesting to me. I did not realize that it was not born that way.
It was not.
Mm-hmm.
And actually that protest turns into a riot. It lasts for about an hour. The TPF shows up again, but it was nothing like that first night.
Yeah. Right.
So because of this, because of what is known as the Stonewall riots, the gay rights movement at the time is injected with a huge amount of energy and new participants.
Yeah.
So a year later, on the anniversary of that first night, it is declared Christopher Street Liberation Day, and it marks the first anniversary of the riots with a march, John, which is the first gay pride march in U.S. history. It covered 51 blocks from Christopher Street to Central Park, and the NYPD provided security for the parade. Isn't that ironic, John?
It is. It is.
They were there to protect the parade participants.
Yes, that's great. Just a quick aside. No, in my my hometown of Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm actually from a suburb of that. But this year, Pride is and going forward, Pride will not be employing police in any capacity other than what is absolutely required by the permits that they need to have Pride. Pride will no longer be employing off-duty police officers.
That's interesting.
I thought so too. So too. Yeah.
I feel like we might see more of that moving forward.
I feel like we will. Yeah. I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, I don't think so either. On June 24th, 2016, President Barack Obama, I miss him so much. He makes the Stonewall Inn a national monument, the first national monument celebrating gay history in this country.
Amazing.
And then 3 years later, in June 2019, NYPD Police Commissioner James P. O'Neill made the following statement. The actions taken by the NYPD were wrong, plain and simple. It was the first official apology that the police made, NYPD made about that night.
50 years later.
50 years later. And that, John, is my version of the Stonewall Inn riots. I want to name my references. There's lots. So what's interesting about the story, John, is that if you read 3 different books, you would find contradictions within those 3. So even within the research I did, I was like, okay, well, 2 out of the 3 said this, so I'm going with this. So I'm sure I made mistakes. I'm sure I said something that was wrong. I would love for people to reach out and let me know what version they know to be true.
Right.
There's a book called Stonewall: Breaking Out in the Fight for Gay Rights by Ann Bowsam. Stonewall by Martin Duberman. The Stonewall Riots Coming Out in the Streets by Gail E. Pittman. And there's this really great 10-minute video. The New York Times produced it. It's called The Stonewall You Know Is a Myth, and That's Okay. And it was produced by Shane O'Neill. It's a great watch. 10 minutes. Gives you a nice kind of overview. But there's lots of stuff out there. It's a fascinating point in history. I was ashamed to not know nearly enough about it when I first started this. And I really, if I could go back in time, John, I would love to be there. I'd love to be there a couple hours before the riot just to have a good time and see these beautiful gay people being themselves in a place where the only place they could be themselves.
Right. The only place they could listen to music and be themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I'd love to be there during it just to see what really went down and how much of this is actually true. Yeah. But yeah, what an important part of my history and of the American history. And it's not really taught in school. I mean, I didn't learn about it in high school, that's for sure.
Yeah. No, this is it's something that needs to change. There are things that we don't find out about sometimes until like we read a comic book or we watch a TV show that's about a comic book. And we find out like a really good resource for some of these things is Howard Zinn's A People's History of the United States. I recommend that. It's a big, thick book. It can be a little intimidating, but you will find out things about this nation's history that will make you understand that we are a great nation, but we are not. That does not mean we have always been great, and it doesn't mean that everything we have done has been great. And it's really important if we want to go on being a great nation and become a greater nation that we need to own these things, and we need to put them out there. We need to understand what we've done wrong so that we can avoid these things in the future. And we're going through another paroxysm of, of accepting what I think every individual, if given the situation of the people, the vulnerable people in these things, I have to believe that not just Americans, but humans have enough empathy built in, if it has not yet been beaten out of them somehow, that like people should be able to be who they want. You know, if they are not hurting other people, then they should be able to be who they are, whether it's the color of their skin that they're born in, or who they love, or what they do that is not harmful. You know, our country was founded on the principle that all men and women, well, that wasn't mentioned, but
eventually.
Now, yeah, but all people are created equal. And this is the thing. We were founded on all, really what we meant then was that all land-holding white men are created equal. Right. And what's happened is that over time, we have hopefully gained the wisdom that, no, you know what? All people. We really, if we're going to say this, it really doesn't ring true if we say only these type of people are all equal. Yeah. We all have to be equal. And I am another white cis het male preaching about something that maybe other people could say better, but I will fight for their right to say it. I will fight for their right to be who they are, in whatever way that I can at this time and in this place. So please continue, Kat.
No, that's it, man. That's it. That's the thing.
It's it's a very weird thing to be faced with two huge things at the same time. But this terrible global pandemic, and also the sudden recognition by the population of the United States that our police have not been what they've been presented to be, and they haven't acted in good faith. And it's not just a few bad apples. So I really, really hope that when we come out of this pandemic and when we get past this current unrest, that we will be better as a society. I really hope so.
I do too, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So listen, I have a surprise for you.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Oh boy.
John, you just had a birthday.
I did, Kat. You've already given me a surprise. I don't know what this surprise is.
I mean, listen, it was a big one. It was a big birthday. I'm not going to say because it's not for me to tell.
It was 50.
And turns out some mistakers wanted to wish you a happy birthday. So if you'll allow me.
Okay.
If you'll indulge me.
I will always indulge you, Kat.
So first I'm going to read some stuff and then there's other stuff. Okay.
Okay.
John, now you're 50. It's time to enjoy the finer things in life, like In-N-Out Burger, reruns of Quantum Leap, and Tito's Vodka. Massive hugs to you, our friend and favorite male podcast host. Lots of love from us, Kitch and Liv.
Ah, I love how qualified that was.
Exactly.
In the category of male podcast hosts, you're our favorite.
You're it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Someone else writes,
okay.
The podcast's #1 fan would like to wish you, John, a very happy birthday, and I hope one day to actually meet you. Keep up the funniness on the show. Much love, Jill. She's a big mistaker. Big fan.
Is. Yes. Thank you, Jill.
And then there's some people sent in some wishes as well.
Hey, sexy Santa. It's Leah. Listen, 50 isn't young. And yet, it's still possible that you are wise beyond your years. I wish you endless greyhounds, lots of pizza, but if I had one birthday wish for you, I would give you a new president. Happy birthday, John. FMP.
Thank you, Leah.
Happy birthday, John.
Happy birthday.
This is Mala.
And this is Dawn.
So people often say the older you get, the more you learn from your mistakes.
And after listening to just about every single episode of My Mistake, we think you might be one of the wisest people that we know. Those red flag chronicles were so painful, but thank you so much for sharing. We're hoping you have a great day. Happy birthday.
We love you, John. Bye.
I love you, Bodans. Thank you.
I wish you all the best. I wish you the happiest birthday. I wish immeasurable success for the My Mistake podcast because I love it and I appreciate it, and it's weekly appointment listening for me. And I gotta say, happy birthday, sir. Keep being who you are, and I look forward to seeing you as soon as possible. And also, FMP.
John Fitzgerald, had I never met you, it wouldn't have made much difference. I want you to know that really, your birthday is about me. You need to know two things. One, I don't do Facebook birthdays for anyone because I find them insufferable. Too many people are born every single day, and I hate that about people. Two, I saw your birthday taking place and silently to myself pondered actually breaking my personal rules. But I didn't, and here we are. You're old, and people are happy about it. I couldn't care less. Except I'm glad to know you and thankful for your way of corralling my crazy. It's not an easy job, and you are great at it. Congratulations on a fucking another trip around the sun.
John, on behalf of all the mistakers,
yes.
Happy birthday, buddy.
Thank you, Kat, and thank you, everybody. It's I didn't die for another year.
Good job.
Yeah. You know what else, Kat? FMP.
FMP. Cool.
Tight.